Welcome back to Design Bundle's YouTube channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Crystal, and today we are going to be working with UV resin. So you guys know that keychains, acrylic keychains if you will, have been super trendy for quite some time. We all absolutely love to make those, but one of the questions that I get all of the time is, do you need to seal those with something like epoxy or UV resin? And you definitely do not. I recommend that you use a permanent adhesive vinyl. You can get away with removable. I have used it and it's lasted for years. So if you want to seal those, you can definitely do it with UV resin or epoxy. We're going to do it with the UV like I said today. So I'm going to show you guys how we're going to do it. All right, so let's go over the supplies that I'm using today. I am using some StarCraft permanent adhesive. I've got some orange and black going on here. I have some UV resin. This is the brand I'm using today. I purchased it on Amazon, as well as a UV flashlight. That's what I'm using today. Both of these can be found on Amazon. I have everything linked down below, as well as our acrylic keychains I'm using. These are 3 inches and they already have a hole cut out for us. And then I've got some keychain hardware with some jump rings, as well as some of these little tassels here. Those are definitely optional. And we have some jewelry pliers. A few more things. Here is a piece of parchment paper that we're going to set this on when we work with the UV. And I've got some transfer tape here, as well as some tweezers and a weeding tool. And then you're also going to need a squeegee. All right, so let's get started. All right, so the very first thing I want to do is remove any sort of lint or debris on our acrylic keychain. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Now, if your acrylic keychains come with this paper coating on both sides or plastic, you want to remove that first. All right, so we're going to have that set aside. So now let's go ahead and weed our adhesive vinyl. This came from a great big bundle that we have, and it's over 100 designs included. And there is several different sports ones, from, you know, footballs, softballs, baseballs, and all of those things. You could put the kiddos' numbers on there, their names. You could do, you know, softball mom and all of that fun stuff as well. So you guys can find that link down below also. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and just weed through all of these pieces here. All right, we've got 2 more pieces, just like so. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and move our acrylic keychain for just a second, because I'm going to use this parchment paper so I can line both of these up at the same time so we can apply them at one time. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is go on top of my outline of my basketball here first, get my squeegee, and go ahead and rub that in. So I'm just gonna go ahead and rub that so we can pick it up with that transfer tape. All right, so now I'm going to place this on top of that parchment. The reason why I'm using the parchment, I'm not doing it in between to line it up like we have done with hacks. You could definitely do that. I'm doing it because it's a clean surface compared to picking up anything on top of this. So I'm going to go ahead and very carefully line this up. And if you do struggle to line up, like I got off just a little bit, I'm not too concerned about it, but if you are, you can definitely use your parchment paper in between to line that up. All right, so I've got that ready to go. So I've got my 2 pieces here. Now, if I was going to be adding in a name, I would also want to do that as well on top. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and peel this and get ready to apply it to our acrylic keychain. So let's bring that back in here really quickly. And then I'm just going to go ahead and line this up. Now this is a 3-inch acrylic keychain, but what I've done is I've did 2.5. That way I left a little bit of room on this keychain for our UV resin to kind of flood around it, so it wasn't edge to edge. And then that also allows us the little hole. Now I definitely could have poked the hole through our adhesive vinyl, but I would highly recommend just leave yourself, you don't have to leave yourself a whole quarter like I did here. Leave yourself enough room for that to flood around to really, you know, tie it off. You don't want to go edge to edge with your adhesive vinyl. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rub that into our acrylic keychain and peel away our transfer sheet. Now at this point, if you have any sort of bubbles, you'll want to go ahead and work those out as well. Something that you can definitely do to work those out as well is you can just kind of poke a hole in there and then rub it out, and then it will get those bubbles right out for you. All right, so once you have done that, the next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and peel off the backing from our our acrylic here. You could definitely do this at the very end if you wanted to, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it now. Now it's time for our UV resin. So what I'm going to do, you could definitely get a toothpick, something to kind of shift this around. I'm just gonna use my tweezers here if I need to. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take my UV resin here, get my lid off. And just, you want a nice thin layer. So I'm gonna go ahead and start from the center here and just kind of work my way out. So hopefully you guys can see this here, and you may want to put on some rubber gloves to protect your hands. So I'm just going to go all the way around until this thing is completely flooded. So right before it starts to dip off the end, I'm just starting to rotate it. If you need to stop, if there's any pieces that are just kind of not going, you can go back and add just a tiny bit there, just to kind of add those in. All right, so going back and just making sure it's flooded from edge to edge, just slowly tilting it around. Now carefully, I'm using some baby wipes to wipe off the back side. I'm just kind of tilting it back and forth. Once I'm ready to go and I know that it's been from edge to edge, hopefully you guys can see that shine there, I'm just gonna tilt it back and forth until I know that it's nice and even. All right, so in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and take some of those baby wipes again and really wipe off the back, just being careful not to wipe the front at all. Just nice and easy wiping off that back. All right, so now that I've done that, I'm gonna go ahead and go back into the hole here. I can take my little weeding tool here. I wanna make sure I don't have any of that UV resin inside of there. Perfect. So you may just kind of, you see how I'm kind of running it around on my parchment here. So I'm running it in that circle just like so, cleaning that off. And now we are ready to seal it. So once it's all leveled, you may want to let it kind of set for just a second to really level out, and you can kind of hit around it, just tap it a little bit, just like so. So once again, once you're happy and you're ready to go, we want to make sure that we get our lid back on that. And now we're going to use our flashlight, or if you have like the UV lamp that's going to go on top, whatever you have, you just want to go ahead and seal this just like so. So we're going to go over this for around a minute or so just to seal it up. So as you guys can see, I'm staying nice and even with my light. So if you're using something like a flashlight, you want to make sure you're keeping that constant motion. You don't have to be super duper fast, but you want to keep that nice, even, constant motion to make sure we're getting a nice, even seal on this. All right, so I'm going to stop and check this really fast. So you just want to go ahead and tap it just a little bit to see if it is dry. All right, so I think we've got it, and there it is. Hopefully you guys can see that. So cool. Now there is ways to avoid these bubbles, and if you want to remove your bubbles, you could definitely go over it and hit it with a heat gun. There's ways to just kind of poke it with a toothpick, as well as using rubbing alcohol. So, but you guys can see how super cool that is. And now this is gonna last you forever. You know it's not going to come off. It is completely sealed. So you could definitely, you know, add another design on the back side and do the same thing, and there you have it. So now let's go ahead and put it together. All right, so putting it together here, we've got this is your keychain hardware. We've got a couple jump rings. Now, if your jump rings are not spread apart like this, you simply want to take your pliers and pull them apart like this. Definitely don't pull them out this way or it's going to tear those up. So first, I like to attach my tassel if you are using one first. I'm gonna go ahead and place it on about the second ring down on our little keychain hardware here. And then we're just gonna go ahead and squeeze that jump ring shut. All right, so just like that. And now we're gonna go ahead and add another jump ring that's gonna go through the keychain here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. And then we're just going to line this right up on top and run it right through. And then we're gonna go ahead and squeeze it shut. There we have it. Perfect. Now you have a perfectly sealed keychain. How cool is that? So we have a completely sealed acrylic keychain. So like I said, this is a question we get asked all of the time. So if you're somebody that wants to take that extra precaution, or you really want to seal it off and just make it look more classy, if you will, more elegant, more complete, if you will, however you want to word that, you can definitely do it with UV resin. I do like this one because it's going to dry quick. So instead of epoxy where you're going to have to leave it for pretty much 24 hours sometimes, you can definitely do it like this and you're going to complete it within like 5 minutes. So depending on your UV light, I need to charge mine. It took me several minutes, but if you have a super bright one, for example, you have your if you have the one that has the little dome on it that you put your fingers in, you could definitely set it to 90 seconds. Once again, check it. If it's still a little bit tacky, let it go again. You can also set these out in the sun, so you can just set them on top of the parchment, set them in the sun, and let the natural sun, UV rays, do its work as well. So if you don't have a UV light, but you do have some UV resin, you can definitely pull that off. Another really cool thing that you can do with the UV resin is you can take the UV resin, put a little bit into a measuring cup, kind of eyeball about how much you think it's going to take. And remember, you want a super thin coat. Always work with a really thin coat. And if you need to go back and add some, you can do so. But you can take those little medicine caps, place some of this in there with a little bit of super fine glitter, mix that around, and you can then turn this into a glitter keychain as well. So lots of options to do that. If that's something you guys want to see me do, drop it in the comments down below and we will definitely make it happen. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the like button down below and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.